And this segment of our session, we would like to encourage you to take active role and participation, particularly in identifying some key issues and challenges in the preceding presentations or in the presentations of our panel speakers. And then you may also propose actions and responses and also legislative initiatives or measures. Since our objective really for this session is to be able to support the crafting of a Manila call for action and also the development of a more specific legislative agenda for gender, climate change adaptation, and disaster risk reduction. And those who will be sharing, since this is fully documented, those who would contribute would be acknowledged. The views shared will be acknowledged. And we will have also an innovative way of consolidating views among the audience, among the participants. We will ask each table, those seated in each table, to come up to share views. So we'll give time for you to share your views among yourselves on certain issues you have identified. Maybe we'll provide 5 to 10 minutes so you could have your own caucus, and then we'll open the floor for sharing of views, for contributions by each table or by region. Okay, so in proceeding and in introducing the first presentation, I would like to present to you a brief bio of our speaker. To speak on the challenge of reducing disaster risk and the YOGO framework of action, our speaker is Dr. Feng Min Can, and Dr. Can is currently Senior Coordinator for the Advocacy and Outreach Coordination Unit of the ISDR Secretariat in Geneva since September 2005. Prior to this, she served as the Senior Regional Officer for Africa of the ISDR Secretariat. Dr. Can has worked for many international organizations in different capacities, but with progressive responsibilities for program management within the UN system, including the Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, UNOPS, UNDP, UNHCR, and IOM. Is it the Human Rights Commission? Okay. And she has accumulated rich working experience in program planning, management, monitoring, evaluation, fundraising, and liaison with donors, UN agencies, governments, and NGOs. Before joining the United Nations, she worked in the Beijing University of Aeronautics and Astronautics. Oh, really? You're into space science. Okay. She holds a PhD in social science and education from the University of Utrecht in Netherlands, with a master's degree in women and development studies and additional studies on international law, social justice, and human rights. So, I'm honored to introduce Dr. Feng Min Can, and let us welcome, please, Dr. Feng Min Can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have to apologize that I did not have a printed out here, so I will move myself to the podium so I can see the presentation better. start. Start. My presentation basically will touch 4 areas, as you can see. The first part, I want to give a definition. What is a disaster risk reduction? And what is a HUGO framework for action? Because this has been a question raised from the floor. So let me start with the definition of disasters and their impact. And then I will move to some global data and show the trends of disasters and their impact. And from there, I will move to progress and the challenges in disaster risk reduction and in the implementation of HUGO framework for action. And to conclude, I will point out some major issues, and then from there, I will propose few key steps forward. Okay, so what is a disaster risk reduction? This is a confusion of the, let me start with what is a HUGO framework for action then? The HUGO framework for action is the final document of the World Conference on Disaster Reduction, which was held in January 2005 in the Hyogo Prefecture of Japan. This conference was held 3 weeks after the tsunami disaster. That's why it was able to gather 168 governments and 161 civil societies to Japan to discuss how we can address the impact of disasters, how we can become more proactive than reactive, and to address the risks and vulnerabilities to disasters. And there they get together, they approved the document, which is called the HUGO Framework for Action. The overarching goal of the HUGO Framework for Action is to build nations and communities to disasters during the decade, which is 2005 to 2015. It's a very ambitious agenda. In this HUGO Framework for Action, they include 3 strategic goals and 5 priorities of actions, and they also include cross-cutting issues such as gender. In the whole document, they basically use 3 lines to underline why we need to increase mainstreaming gender in disaster risk reduction. And more, they emphasize the implementation and follow-ups. So the focus of the HUGO Framework for Action is on national and local implementation. With bilateral, multilateral, regional, and international collaborations. So what is the disaster risk reduction? Disaster risk reduction is the sum of measures which can be undertaken to reduce human, social, economical, technological, or environmental vulnerabilities to disasters. And these measures include risk assessment, education, as you can read it, including land use planning. But this is not an exhaustive list. I will show it later. Next. So, based on the data available, I selected some slides to make the presentation lighter, not always full of words. So, from this